through the news for you. David Zublick, Awake Nation, the truth with a shot of espresso. The Mockingbird Media controls the narrative. We help you determine what is real and what is not.
It's a global conspiracy with key players at the highest levels of power. It reaches into the lives of every man, woman, and child on this planet.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow government, I will fear no Satans. Tuesday, March 26, 2024, our guests are Christi Tasker. Christi Tasker is an award-winning technologist, international business consultant, designer, manufacturer, artisan. She designs and sells fashion, jewelry, home decor, and fabrics. Christi is also an investigative journalist based in Miami who travels globally to discover truth. She's an investigative journalist for the Awake Nation. You can find her at ChristiTasker.com, PSSRocks.com, PatriotsPerspective.com, and ChristiTaskerForMiami.com. And don't forget Banana Republic News with Christi Tasker, independent investigative journalist and reporter for the Awake Nation. Banana Republic News. We don't monkey around with the truth. Our next guest is Dr. Reg McDaniel. Dr. Reg McDaniel is a retired physician who developed the plant ingredients in New Eden. New Eden supports the normal functions of the human body by increasing the supply of nutrient molecules used in cellular synthesis to assemble bioactive compounds that operate the biochemistry and physiology of life. You can purchase his book, The Gift, A Primal Provision, on Amazon. Our next guest is Kate Shemirani, natural nurse in a toxic world. Kate was suspended by the Nursing and Midwifery Council in July of 2020. She was arrested after emceeing a rally against a tyrannical lockdown and lies from the British government concerning COVID-19 and vaccinations, along with the rollout of 5G. You can find Kate at kateshemirani.com.
Propaganda. They have hit us with propaganda. The Nazis used it. Listen, they use it all through history. Remember, the devil never changes the script. It's where doctors and nurses will look at the scan results and the blood results when this poor patient has been hammered with mustard gas. Let's say mustard gas, because that's what chemotherapy is. And they go, oh, look, it's working. Their tumour's shrinking. And the poor patient in the bed is now looking like a wax dummy. All the Mr. Vitality's left the show long ago, and the patient's dying or does die. But because the tumour shrank on the scan, they say the drug is a success.
Kate Shemirani on TNT, 7 to 8 p.m. Sundays. Rounding out the final hour of David Zublick's Awake Nation is David Baumblatt, the author of Patriots Betrayed. David is a former FBI agent, West Point Army officer, Harvard and IMD graduate, New Yorker, political nationalist, China expert, heavyweight boxer, and leadership veteran who is currently under an unconstitutional investigation from the corrupt FBI. The FBI colluded with foreign intelligence agencies to destroy his life and career overseas. You can find David at Terabith Leadership on Rumble, BitChute, and YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe to The Dark Outpost at darkoutpost.tv. There you will find exclusive content, interviews, documentaries, and intel not found anywhere else. You can find us on Rumble at the David Zublick channel and watch us live at theawakenation.com. Falling down the rabbit hole can hurt. Ow, 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 ow. That's gonna hurt. We will provide the researchers and whistleblowers. Your mission is to discern the truth from the MSN lies. And now for the interview portion of David Zublick's Awake Nation. And awake we go with a shot of espresso. It's showtime.
You have a theme for her, don't you?
I do. Hold on just one second. Sorry, I was looking at the Krispy Kreme donut thing, and I was mesmerized by the Krispy Kreme news.
Yes.
1 second. Here we go. Welcome to Banana Republic News. We don't monkey around with the truth. Meet your host and creator of Banana Republic News, Christi Tasker, international investigative journalist situated in Miami. Christi covers hot topics the MSN won't touch. She covers crime, government corruption, conspiracies, and the entire political spectrum from Trump to DeSantis with the unbiased eyes of a seasoned world traveler and investigative journalist. She also covers art, fashion, food, music. She utilizes undercover methodologies and no topic goes uncovered. For Christi Tasker is a formidable, deep researcher. Many do duck and cover when they see her coming. Banana Republic News with Christi Tasker begins now.
And now we can bring her in. Welcome back.
I'm mesmerized because McDonald's is now selling Krispy Kreme donuts.
So Penny, are you gonna start frequenting McDonald's again?
No, I bought my own donut maker.
We come out of the
You did not.
I did.
Break.
Did it work?
Penny's going.
I haven't used it. Look at this.
Look at Krispy Kreme.
I haven't used it yet. It's like the little mini one. I bought one for Susie too. And by the way, the other night she saw this extraterrestrial craft that makes these donut holes and goes into a portal. That's the second time she's seen it over our property.
Oh my gosh, that is hilarious. Well, speaking of portals and CERN, I have some news coming out about Discern Media coming up before too long. So,
yes.
which obviously Awake Nation will be part of. So a funny story. So I've been gone for 2 weeks, right? So I've been in Rome, Italy. Yeah. Unexpectedly stayed in Rome the entire time. I expected to go all over Italy. But my husband has decided that he likes to frequent hospitals when we go to Europe after these flights. So he was hospitalized in Italy for 5 days, well taken care of by the Italians. And I highly recommend, if you have to go to the hospital, that you go in Italy. Okay. But I mean, don't go in the hospital if you don't have to, but at least it's not the killing fields that our hospitals here in America are. Matter of fact, the doctors couldn't believe some of the things that our doctors were doing here in America, and some of the hospitals and the situations. Not saying that all hospitals are bad, okay? Because I know
I can imagine the cuisine was probably better, fettuccine, nice coffee.
Well, here in America, I got a hangnail, and they say you need remdesivir.
Yes. We need to take off your leg. That'll fix that hangnail.
Yeah, they didn't give it. He didn't leave with a plethora of big pharma. Matter of fact, he left with a plethora of here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to follow up on. You need to control your diet a little bit better, and just basic things. But he is getting the care that he needs. And a lot of people have called, emailed, asked, and thank you very much for that. It was very nerve-wracking. I want to thank the staff at the Pantheon, the real Pantheon, the iconic Pantheon Hotel. They basically came to my aid as I screamed to the top of my lungs to get 911 there. The neighbor next door came. So it was an absolute emergency. But Boyd is okay. So I say that because I know I have so many emails and phone calls and everything to answer. I will be writing an article about that on PS This Rocks, because that's my travel blog. I write everything travel on PS This Rocks. But let's get down to some fun South Florida news, shall we? Let's get down to, remember, like probably 3-4 weeks ago now, when I met with the governor, I posted my photo, like, because I ran up to him afterwards and people were going, oh my God, like she's going to attack him. We finally let her in the door. Now she's going to attack him. And I said, no, I just need to talk to the governor for a second. So I tell him at that point, there is no way City of Miami is going to comply with your homeless wishes. I said, you're going to have to sign an executive order or get this through legislation. So I would like to report that Governor DeSantis and Newsom agree on something. They don't want homeless sleeping in our public streets. Imagine that. So,
no, but Newsom wants them sleeping in your home.
Right, exactly.
Right. Governor in Michigan paying people $500 a month to house newcomers.
Right. Well, I was going to say, David, the big difference is Ron DeSantis signed a law criminalizing sleeping on public property in Florida and all of Florida. So he did follow through with that. So I'm about giving kudos where kudos are due, which is not very often these days. But you know, we did have a few wins, so I'd like to report that. And Gavin Newsom is trying to clear encampments, and he's just trying to clear the encampments in California. Well, that's not going to work. Just trying to clear, you have to really do something about it. He has the power to. So that's your two differences in even governors in Florida versus California. You know, so I say that we are on the right side of the United States and there is a left side, but you know, they also want us to think that as well. So now what happened is instead of homeless people being allowed to sleep on our streets, because they were on South Beach here, they were actually sleeping in the streets, sleeping in the sidewalks, sleeping on public property. And here in the city of Miami, they're vastly sleeping in, like they're literally sleeping in county and state right-of-ways. So they're sleeping in the interstate. You know how there's like bushes in the interstate?
Right.
Wow.
They're sleeping. They have tents in the bushes here already. Okay.
Wow.
So I'm gonna go back. I was driving, so I wasn't able to get a photograph or a video of that. I have plenty of other videos that I'll make sure that we post on Banana Republic News, including the video of Joe Carollo, supposedly's brother, that constantly sleeps outside of Tower Theater. So all of that I'm going to be posting on Banana Republic News. So make sure you are subscribed to bananarepublicnews.com if you haven't already, and you can see all those videos and everything. Along with, you can also right now see the article that I wrote. Did I share the article that I wrote with you guys regarding Emilio Estefan being the co-owner of Only in Dade? Yeah, no. I did that, right?
No.
Did I? Okay.
No. I don't think so.
Okay, I'm going to share this. I'm going to share my screen with you so you guys can see this. Because this is did you guys do it? While I was away, you had Ruben De La Rua for sheriff on, right?
Yes,
he did.
He's awesome.
We
asked him to come back.
He's fantastic. Okay, so I got to interview Ruben De La Rua for this article. So there's a quote in here from him and Art Acevedo. So, okay, there is a media company here called Only in Dade. Only in Dade is actually owned by a done time and Gloria Estefan's husband, Emilio. Okay. So I get an email from Emilio, a letter actually, cease and desist, that I should stop using his name, that I have defamed him for something that he's already said to the Miami Herald. Okay. As he continues to defame me in the letter, he goes on basically saying that he's not the co-founder. He's just the co-owner. So I need to correct that he's only the co-owner of Only in Dade. So in other words, somebody else founded it. He didn't really find it, but he just funds it. Okay. So I don't know how much he funds. He was unclear in his letter, but all I know is according to the Miami Herald, which is an article that he has yet to correct if it is wrong, that promoted him. He is the co-founder of Only in Dade, who went out to partnered with a company called Police Jobs LLC. Police Jobs LLC is owned by 2 City of Miami policemen who run the media company for the entire city. So I'm not sure what happened to these to the Instagram post here. We'll have to see. But Umset Ramos is one of the owners, and he's also the person who's behind. You know how like the policemen always have their presence like on social media, like they're cool and they're TikTok cops. But here we pay a group of cops. By the way, we're short-staffed almost officer day, but yet we have enough funds and enough manpower to have upwards of, I think, either 3 to 6 media cops. Okay. So in other words, those are the cops that are supposed to be reporting, what's happening here, what you should be doing. So they were utilizing
the camera to speak for the police.
Yes, that is correct. Or not only to speak to the police, David. No. They're actually making social media content. You can go on to Miami PD and you can see the type of content that they make. Listen, it's good. It's okay. But I don't think it takes 6 cops to make this type of content.
No.
Okay. So I'm just saying. So, and they do all of this on taxpayers' dime, but yet they wanted to charge all of our sheriff's candidates $3,000 each to participate in just a debate. And the funny thing is, they'd actually scheduled this debate at a comedy club. Like, you can't even make this stuff up. Okay. So, but the point is, Only in Dade was going to partner with Police Jobs LLC to promote whichever sheriffs were going to pay to participate in their debate. So that was the funny thing. So here is the owner, or the founder and the co-owner of Only in Dade. His name is Leonardo Lastre. He goes by several other names. Matter of fact, on some of the legal documents, he doesn't even use his legal name. So that's the reason people have been able to.
He has a record.
He's the one who wants $1,000. He and Police Jobs Inc. He owns Only in Dade. Okay, so that's a media company. He was going to partner with Police Jobs LLC, which are 2 cops that's owned by 2 cops, to promote the sheriffs. However, what I noticed was, wow, Emilio Estefan. Oh, we have celebrity power behind who's going to own our chefs. And conveniently, Emilio Estefan here is photographed with Leonardo. Here, he was okay with that in 2023. So just a few months ago, he was okay. Carter, the guy here, Lastre, he goes by Carter now. Okay, he goes by Lenny Carter. Notice his name is Lenny Carter here, but yet on his criminal record, it's Leonardo Lastre. Okay, so this is what happens in Florida. Okay, they're hoping nobody's ever going to figure these things out. Okay, and this guy also used to run clubs. I've got whistleblowers that are telling me that this guy, not only that, but he's been around for a while. So there's a little bit more investigation coming on him. I've got whistleblowers that are telling me that he owned clubs, or he was a club promoter back in the day, and those same clubs were potentially taken down or allegedly taken down for trafficking. So I don't know if it's sex trafficking, child trafficking, but we're going to get to the bottom of all of this, because we know we're over the target, because we start to get letters from Emilio and his attorneys. We know that, something good's about to happen. So everybody just stay tuned there. Okay. Because we got whistleblowers coming left and center, because people are very happy that this Only in Dade channel, they could never figure it out, because they claim to have 1.4 million followers on the channel, but the average post engagement is only 2,000 people. So that alone just didn't sit well with me, along with them wanting to charge the sheriff candidates to come and participate in democracy. So there we have it there. We have homelessness as a crime. So I say that we definitely need to stand behind the governor and hold our Florida city commissioners and our county commissioners, we need to hold them accountable, because if they don't make concessions and these people continue to sleep in our streets and sleep on our public right of way and our sidewalks, then we do have the power to at least arrest them now. So that was a good thing, if you ask me. That was a total win. I'll tell you who's very happy with this is Miami Beach Commission and Miami Beach Mayor. They are extremely happy because they had one of the best spring breaks ever and one of the most profitable for businesses. It was the first year in a very long time that the city of Miami Beach hotels did not have to close. They did smart things ahead of time, such as they closed some garages, parking garages, so that people could not come and sleep in their cars. A lot of locals couldn't understand why they closed the parking garages, because people were actually coming down and sleeping in their cars. And
Really?
They were sleeping on the cars, sleeping on the beaches. So what they did, they left tourists very few places to park. And if there were places to park, it needed to be attached to a hotel room so that would know, because if you think about it, it is a life safety issue, because I mean, we all know, they can load a car with bombs or anything else, put it in parking garages. And the more of that we have, the more staff and the more police force it takes to actually manage those cars, those vehicles, and the entire situation. So according to the Miami Beach Mayor Minor, we had the best spring break ever in Miami Beach, on the Miami Beach side. I am in the city of Miami side, where things are an absolute absurd mess, where we had everything from this like electronic, everybody on the West Coast will know Electronic Daisy Festival. Well, they had this called Afterlife. We had the Afterlife Festival here, where we backed up traffic for over 3 hours. It took people to get home. The city of Miami turned around and blamed citizens of Key Biscayne that they should have known better. They should have just stayed home and done their due diligence. So the Afterlife crew and all of their promoters, such as Live Nation, could just do their thing in our city. Okay. Forget you all, citizens. Let's just sit at home and let the tourists take over. Basically, that's what city government said. And we say no way. So this Thursday, I imagine City Hall is going to be absolutely packed with people protesting any of these concerts moving forward. And I have a letter that's going out to Commissioner Pardo with my recommendations to him so that he can further protect District 2, which is the majority of everything happens in District 2 here in Miami. Matter of fact, District 2 is 90% of the revenue raised throughout the city of Miami. So when it comes to what they can do and what they can't do, he should have a lot of power in saying, no way, we're not supporting this. And by the way, it's our citizens here who are footing the bill for all of this. And our citizens are going to be put first for the first time, probably in a very long time in the city of Miami.
Well, it's about time. You have another little local issue happening there in your wonderful city.
Yes.
P. Diddy.
Yeah. Yes.
He's homeless now, but not by choice.
Right. He's living in his plane.
Antigua.
He's living in his hangar.
Yes, he's living in somebody's, we don't, it's like that little shell game that you used to play. But now it's like, where's P. Diddy? Because was he on the plane? We don't know. Was he charged? We don't know. Do you know, is Miami Sound Machine touring?
That's a really great question. So, Miami Sound Machine is Gloria Estefan, right?
Yeah, right.
And she had restaurants up until COVID. She had restaurants. The Estefan Enterprises Incorporated. I'm not sure if they all went under Estefan Incorporated. But what it really looks like here is that Emilio Estefan, and I'm allegedly saying this is a theory. I want to be very clear on this. My theory and my opinion, based on a lot of what we have tracked down so far, Emilio Estefan has been the producer of Gloria Estefan's music. And Emilio Estefan is from Cuba. You guys know there have been a lot of Cuban spies that have infiltrated America over the years.
One that was just most recently arrested last year. He's in jail now.
Exactly, Penny. And so, what better way to get to the hearts of the Cuban people than through the Miami sound machine called Gloria Estefan, and all while she's hosting all of our Democrat friends, such as, I think she hosted Hillary Clinton, Obama. Like, you can look back and just look at their different names. They so many players in the political arena that we consider to be possibly no good.
Well, I sang some of her stuff. So,
oh yeah,
come on, baby, shake your body, do the conga.
Listen, we love, like, everybody loves Gloria Estefan's music, right? So
yes,
where did I haven't researched this, Penny. Maybe you could help me research, like, where the music came from, who wrote it, has anybody ever tried to take rights from it? Is it really hers? Like, these are questions I don't know. They're just like, knowing what we know now. Where did this come from? Because the one thing I find very odd is that Emilio Estefan is promoted throughout the city of Miami government. Again, the same government that is, like, the majority of our commissioners and our mayor was actually under investigation. But strangely and awkwardly, Francis Suarez was able to get away with a complete ethics violation. In my opinion, it was an ethics violation. However, our ethics commission, who is run by Daniela Levine Cava, did not find him unethical. Okay. How convenient is that? Daniela Levine Cava, along with Catherine Rundle, who is our state attorney general, those are two people that are known to be friends, along with Francis Suarez. Why didn't Catherine Rundle and Daniela Levine Cava say to their ethics commission, listen, this is a mayor that we are friends with. We are in alliance with him. Why didn't they release that particular incident to the state level and not keep it here in the county level? We should all want to know that, right?
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit? We only have like 2 more minutes about Discern.
Yes. So Discern Media Group is a media group that we are going to be starting so that people can turn on their televisions and watch simultaneous whatever is going on a daily basis. So Awake Nation will be, hopefully, I haven't even gotten to talk to David about this privately. So here we are, David. I would love for you guys to be able to air, the full show there so people can turn on their televisions in one location and constantly watch 24 hours of television, no matter what time of day it is. So there is an entire lineup that I'm looking to do, which Awake Nation, I'm hoping will be the full, and it aired in its entirety. David agrees. So, and then when it comes to, documentaries and other things that we want to make sure that people get to see, those will also be airing throughout the day or night. Because we have to replace, God has basically told me, we have to replace everything, especially the media. Listen, I've waited a long time. I kept thinking like somebody else is going to do it. Yes, there's Rumble, but people go to Rumble and they're like, oh, they don't know what channels to follow. So I want to make sure that we have 24 hours of television with all like really things that make people discern what is real, what is not. How to bring on the narrative, even some of the History Channel documentaries, so that you can start to understand what they've even done and how to discern when things are real, what needs to be changed, and how we can take a part in that.
Very good. We'll see. Well, we'll get together off the air and we'll see if we can work something out. I would love to help you out with that. So, in the meantime, tell everybody where they can find you.
So you can find me at bananarepublicnews.com and psthisrocks.com. Thanks, David.
All right. Thank you so
Christi.
much. And we will get together with you on covering that for you. Thank you
Okay,
so much.
sounds great, David.
All
Take
right.
care. Bye-bye.
Christi Tasker here on The Awake Nation. Coming up next, of course, in just a couple of minutes is Dr. Reginald McDaniel. And before we do that, however, we have some headlines for you at the top of the hour. We want to get all of that going to let you know what is happening in the world. Believe it or not, here we go. And let me just do this real quick before I lose this thing. There it is. Here we go. Let's get some news going, shall we? All right, top stories. Palestinian UN envoy accuses Israel of genocide in Gaza. Putin suggests Moscow terror attack could be linked to Ukraine. Church of England Archdeacon calls for anti-whiteness. Bill Gates study predicts sudden and irreversible global population collapse. A man confronts Anderson Cooper for pushing Pfizer jabs and said, "You are a mass serial killer." And Arnold Schwarzenegger, who called the unvaxxed schmucks, has a pacemaker installed after 3 open heart surgeries. And the FAA has issued a warning for air travel disruptions during April's total solar eclipse. Those are just some of the stories we're following for you here on The Awake Nation. And now let us bring in our next guest, Dr. Reginald McDaniel of Wellness Quest. Dr. McDaniel, welcome back to The Awake Nation. How are you?
Marvelous. It's rather cool here in Texas this morning.
Yes, it is.
Oh, what's the temperature over there?
About 46 this morning.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, my hands are cold, Dr. Reg.
Yes.
But
I'm not
you
too
know,
far
warm
from
yourself
you.
up with those Krispy Kreme donuts from McDonald's that they're going to
Right.
Before we get started, I think we need to have a little bit of a review because it's been 2 weeks. We decided that we would go through the ingredients of New Eden, which is a dietary supplement that I've been focused on now for about 38 years, trying to improve it. And one of the reasons that has really caught my fascination is that National Geographic magazine and NIH Longevity have given grants to a Dan Buettner, and he's written a book that I have here in my hands. And what we have been able to do is that since 1994, when the Dietary Supplement Act was passed, that we have been getting about 75 to 85% of the benefits that they have found in the blue zones on isolated islands and peninsulas that are separated primarily from large urban areas, and that their diet and daily activity or exercise is just part of their life. And one of the main points of this book is that none of these people in these isolated blue zone areas intended to do something or made a conscious decision to live in a manner to live to be 90 or 100, more than 100 years of age. And it just happened. And he went around with this National Geographic, about 5 grants, and discovered them. And even Netflix has come up with a segment on television, and the National Geographic has already had 2 segments in their publication, which I'm informed is the most highly published and circulated document on the planet. And we have been seeing about 75 or 85% of what they see in these blue zones by adding to the diet the ingredients that are in New Eden. And simply stated, what we've done is just restored to the diet nutrient molecules that used to be in the family garden and orchard when we allowed the produce to ripen on the plant, and the genes in the plant could put these nutrient molecules that our genes call for in cellular synthesis to make bioactive molecules that operate the biochemistry and physiology of life. And in New Eden, the number one ingredient for bioactivity is the aloe-acemannan, or acetylated mannose, that is made in the gel of the aloe vera plant, which when I started out in this in 1985, I did not know that aloe had about a 5,000 year history of human beings using it in different societies to support good health, topically and internally. And I believe as we were about to slide number 13, if I'm right, I don't know, maybe you know where we were, but that Carrington Laboratories was founded by Clinton Howard, who had a small company called AvaCare that had about 12 products made from aloe vera leaf gel, and one of them was a beverage, and it was called Carolo. And in 1984-85, he had 7 different individuals from 7 different states contact him and say, I was on my deathbed waiting to die from this unknown disease, an unknown cause, called acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is also called AIDS.
Right.
And I drank your aloe juice, and now I'm back at work and in school. Thought you'd want to know. Well, Clinton Howard went berserk, I think, and founded Carrington Laboratories and raised $21 million to try to make a new drug from the active ingredient in aloe vera leaf gel. And it was found to be acetylated mannose, but it was turned down by the FDA because no toxicity or untoward side effects could be determined, which is pharmaceutical heresy. Also, another point was that it didn't matter what was wrong with the individual, whether it was physical, mental, or emotional. If they added this to their diet, they improved. And this is part of the reason that these blue zones have been such a remarkable impact upon me, because adding this to the diet, we got many of the features of the blue zones, which is longevity and good health. And so then I was medical director for a dietary supplement company and traveled to 10 different foreign countries lecturing. And we were getting these kind of results in all these places. And it's against the federal law to represent or claim any benefits for improving health with anything other than an FDA drug. So what we say is all we do is improve the nutritional supply to our cells and turn it over to our genes to do the activity to improve the health. And this is at the atom and molecule level, which is a microcosmos too small for human beings to intervene or be activated. So we're not treating or curing any disease. All we're doing is improving nutrition and allowing the genes that are programs to try to move our health to the normal zone. So the active ingredient in New Eden, the primary active ingredient is aloe-acemannan, and all it does is support the normal function in biochemistry and physiology of the human body. Next slide, please.
All right.
I have in my hand a 43-page publication recently sent to me that the government of China starts out in this 43-page thing recognizing key research that was done by the group I was a part of at Carrington Laboratories in the 1980s and 90s. Then at their institution, they do incredible research paid for by the government of China that must be primarily a dental health organization, because they showed all types of improvements in soft tissues of the gums and in the bones, the jaws, and all the different layers of the teeth that the active ingredient from aloe. As you notice there, the title is A New Biomaterial Derived from Aloe Vera, Acemannan, Basic Studies in Clinical Application. Well, the 4 Chinese researchers blew me away with the information that they had developed that supported the anecdotal observations that I had made since 1985 to the present. And the bibliography has over 100 papers published since the year 2000 that support and do the basic science and clinical investigations that support the benefits of adding the acemannan to the diet. And as I again said, this acemannan is such a benefit that by adding it to your diet, you get many of the benefits that are being derived in the blue zones that the National Geographic magazine is promoting across the country. But this paper, you cannot imagine the hostility and the, as I frequently say, you should see the scars on my back from coming up with this dietary supplement ingredient that actually is disruptive technology because it is safe, is effective because it supports the engineering and design of life, and it's also economical. And drugs cannot compete with this. So this is really aroused a lot of opposition. And out of about 80 researchers that were involved in this at one time, to my knowledge, I'm the only one that's still alive and still pursuing this. But this paper from China just supports what I've been telling people this will do, that if you add the New Eden to your diet, you can get many of the benefits, or most of them, that are being uncovered in the blue zones across the country. So this is an incredible publication. Next slide, please. I wanted to point out that I'm here in Texas, and here in Texas, we had a researcher, a PhD, Roger J. Williams, that was active in research down at the University of Texas in Austin, and he wrote 11 books on nutrition. And one of them is The Wonderful World Within You. And unfortunately, in our education system, we do not point out the fact that what Dr. Williams found out is that our body functions primarily on nutrient molecules that are used in cellular synthesis to hook together to make bioactive compounds to run the biochemistry and physiology of life. And his most important book was published in 1972, which was entitled Nutrition Against Disease. And Dr. Williams went to Washington repeatedly testifying that all the laws are in error that promote pharmaceutical drugs that the body is operated on or operated by nutrient molecules. And his most famous statement was, the human body heals itself. Nutrition provides the resources to accomplish the task. And in this book, Wonderful World Within You, is just part of trying to get across to the public how important nutrition is in regard to good health. And as this blue zone is finding out, not only good health, but longevity and good health as you age, that they found places where people were in their 90s living independently and over 100. Fact is, in Okinawa, they had a 116-year-old female, which is the longest living. But the big point was diet and activity that they pursued on a daily basis. Next slide, please.
How old was that? 116?
Yep. That's kind of the record for a female, and it was in Okinawa. This just points out the physiology and why nutrition is so important. And it starts out that you put the food in your mouth and you start to chew to get it at smaller size and mix it with the water that is in saliva, which also has enzymes, particularly it starts chopping or cutting up large carbohydrate molecules to get them down to molecular size. And then you go into the stomach, and there are enzymes there that break up the food particles to make them smaller. And then in the intestines, additional enzymes to reduce the proteins to amino acids, the fat globules to fatty acids, and the carbohydrate chains to sugars or monosaccharides, and that it's absorbed in the small bowel into the serum once you get it down to these small molecules. And then the heart pumps the blood around with the serum having the nutrient molecules in there to the various cells, down to the capillaries, to the individual cells. And that the nutrient molecules cross the cell membrane to an assembly line that we have mentioned several times in lectures, that is present in every cell, where the steps under the control of the genes or DNA or the nucleic acids. And it's a complex process of how the incredible action of DNA and RNA work with the organelles to assemble bioactive molecules that are then pumped by the blood to the various cells and organs that need this. And that this process provides structure and functional compounds to operate our body. That's the basic overview of why nutrition is so important. Next slide, please. Dr. Williams, that I mentioned, that wrote The Body, developed a thing called this nutrient circle. And if you'll notice, it says a zone there of trace minerals, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. And then in the second little line there, it actually gives you the minerals, like at the top, you see iron. And over there, you'll see to the right multiple amino acids. And he draws a bar graph from the center for the amount of material present in nutrients that are in food that operate in, are utilized by the genes to make bioactive molecules. Next slide, please. This just shows that rice bran, which you recall was where they found that the coating of the rice that protects the little cotyledon inside of it, that this beriberi was a fatal disease that they found out in 1912, that it was present. And you can notice each line of different amounts of nutrient molecules that are in rice bran. Next slide, please. We go through these rapidly just to get across that once you strip off the bran, this is what is present and left in white rice. And you'll notice how sharp the different lines are, though you still have a good bit of valine amino acid and such, but the seeds and the grains in their natural form can contain far more nutrient molecules than once you start processing it, is what this demonstrates of the brown rice with a coat on the outside of the seed versus white rice. Next slide, please. I just point out that beans and seeds are remarkable structures in nature, and that there is a coating over the seed or the bean that protects the nutrient supply that's inside the seed structure, that is adequate to when the little embryo inside it, which also that covering protects, is when it germinates, there is a food supply in the cotyledons for sufficient to make the first root and the first leaf. And at that point, photosynthesis is turned on. And what I'm trying to get across with this demonstration is that in nature, provision for the next generation is present, and that when we eat or grind up the entire seed or bean, we get benefits from the protective coat and also the nutrient supply that was included in this structure for the first root and the first leaf. And that's why the rice with the coating on it was so much more powerful with its supply of nutrients. And we've utilized this principle again and again in producing New Eden dietary supplement that we talk about on this program, because in nature, all these nutrient molecules have been provided that our cells require to be supplied to be able to hook them together in cellular synthesis to make bioactive structure and function molecules. Next slide, please. This is hemp seed, which is one of the ingredients in New Eden. And as you see by the length of the spokes in the middle, a very wide supply of amino acids and some trace elements. And sodium and potassium that are needed in the electrolyte supply of the body is present. Next slide, please. This is typical of English peas, again, which are in the family of seeds and beans. And you can see that this legume has 40 nutrients, and the supply of trying to get to put into New Eden is close to nature as you can get it, just to take the full seed and crush it and grind it up to a powder rather than make extracts of it and possibly lose some of these incredible molecules that are present in the plant kingdom that the animal kingdom must have in the programs for the DNA to be able to make in cellular synthesis the biochemical and the physiology of the life process. Next slide. Very common in our diets are peanuts, and you can see the wide variety of nutrients that are in peanuts, and it's frequently pointed out, particularly in the South, that peanut butter is a good source for multiple nutrient molecules for people that really can't afford, say, some of the more expensive foods, that peanuts is a relatively inexpensive type of product from nature that has, as you see, the spokes that are around it. Next slide, please. I thought this would be interesting because in the United States, we are not particularly high in our consumption of mushrooms, but this is an example that I've brought out to show that mushrooms have an incredible broad source of nutrients that support the biochemistry and the cellular synthesis. And in fact, horsemane mushroom powder is in New Eden because of what you see here of all these spokes that Dr. Williams worked out with his assays of, because he was a biochemist, of the contributions that mushrooms can make to the diet. Next slide, please. This is a show many people point out that we feed our animals better than humans oftentimes eat. And the big dog companies put dogs and small animals, companion animals, in a cage, and they do metabolic studies on them, and the animal doesn't have a choice, but then they assay their serum and their feces and the amount of carbon dioxide that they put off in these metabolic units. And this is a picture of how broad the supply of nutrients are in dog food. And this is not appetizing frequently, but it gives you an example that if you do the science and you can constrain the animal and then develop different diets, you can idealize the diets and give a broad range of nutrient supply. And I recently on my cell phone had a segment that came on that a retired veterinarian in New York has pointed out that he has developed his dog food formula to the point that dogs live twice as long as is usually expected for dogs to live by the nutrient molecules that he has put in his dog food. And in Arkansas, there is a national laboratory on animal aging where they test different substances. And he has gone, they start out with worms, and then they do fruit flies, and then they do mice and rats, and eventually get to dogs. Well, he has leaped past these different steps that they do in this national laboratory to study nutrition. And this is an example of the broad supply of nutrient molecules that are in dog food. Next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
This is an example that I get a lot of pleasure on, because when I was a kid, I was influenced by the Popeye comics and how he would be so strong and would pop the spinach in his mouth. And this is the supply of nutrients that are in spinach leaves. And this is a very good supply to add to your diet that oftentimes you overlook, that in salads and in sauteed vegetables, that the green leafies are very important, because they not only provide a very broad supply of various nutrient molecules, but also fiber that is helpful for the GI tract to properly function. Next slide, please. This is Roger J. Williams, and whose circles that we were using, and his book, Nutrition Against Disease, published in 71. He says in the first chapter that the human body heals itself and nutrition provides resources to accomplish the task. Well, the blue zone phenomenon that grants from the National Geographic is really emphasizing the importance of this simple statement. In the last 38 years that I have been focused on not only nutrition, but especially the acemannan that is present in the aloe leaves, that I could say that in my experience, not only does the human body heal itself, but all the operations of our body, our thinking, our responses, our muscular activity, everything is dependent upon the biochemistry tune the cells of the different organs to properly function, and that life itself is supported by nutrition. So I hope that doesn't run past our 30 minutes, but we finished.
No, and I want to remind people that all of the ingredients to which Dr. Reg speaks are in this wonderful product called New Eden. This is not a nutritional supplement. It is nutrition. And you take a scoopful in the morning with your favorite delivery system, can be yogurt is what I use, and one at night, and you are going to notice the difference. And once you have this, you are not going to want to be without it. So go to our website, theawakenation.com. There's a jar right on the homepage. Click on that jar to take you to New Eden to purchase this. Get 1 or 2 jars to start with. I promise you, this is going to make you feel 100% better, and you are going to be very glad. You can maybe live as long as some of the people in the blue zones if you take care of your health and eat proper nutrition, including the New Eden. Dr. Reg, we'll do it again in a couple of weeks. Thank you for always educating our viewers. We appreciate it.
Well, we'll continue with the ingredients that are in New Eden and what they do to supply benefit for the body. And I want to mention in the blue zones, after you address nutrition and activity, such we call exercise, that interpersonal relationships and finding a purpose in life is one of the important things of common denominators in all these blue zones. And actually, you and Penny here with Awake Nation have a purpose of trying to share information with people that contributes to good health, of having something to do that reaches out and touches other people emotionally and mentally. And of course, I have found my purpose trying to share this with as many people as I can. Thank you.
You are a part of that. Thank you so much, Doctor. We appreciate it. Dr. Reginald McDaniel here on the Awake Nation. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, Kate Shemirani will join us. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Hi, welcome back to the Awake Nation. Penny L.A. Shepard is with us. David Zublick here. Glad to have you folks with us. And now it is time to give you a brief update on that situation going on in Baltimore. So let's do that right now. Here it is, the Francis Scott Key Bridge. If you're not familiar with this, if you hadn't heard this morning, the Francis Scott Key Bridge along I-695 in Maryland collapsed into the Baltimore harbor following a ship strike early Tuesday morning, setting off a search and rescue mission for those inside vehicles that plunged into the chilly waters. A live stream of the bridge appeared to show a cargo ship colliding with a support beam, causing the bridge to break apart and fall into the Patapsco River. Officials said upwards of 7 people were missing and the 2 had been pulled from the water. Multiple vehicles were on the bridge at the time, but no update on casualties has been offered. Paul Whitefield, Secretary of the Maryland Department of Transportation, told reporters early Tuesday the FBI is on the scene investigating what caused the ship to ram into the bridge and make sure it is not linked to terrorism. All right. And so we will continue to keep you posted on that. And joining us now is Kate Shemirani. How are you doing, Kate?
Hi, good afternoon. I've actually got dry hair today, just
Nice.
needing a good wash. I'm trying to grow my fringe out.
Your hair always looks great.
I know, it's always good, having a hair day, bad hair day, whatever. Yeah, you know what? It's very interesting watching. I love the whole terrorism thing now, because it used to be that we were to fear the Muslims. They were the terrorists. They were the terrorists. War on terror, George Bush, Gaza Strip, all of it. Forget it. It's all ours. And now, of course, we're letting all the Muslims in. Curry nights, 7 nights a week. The figures into the UK are incredible of how we've actually got in. So now the new terrorists are Russia, and we've had the chap who was a whistleblower against Boeing, and just before his court case, he managed to shoot himself in the head. So he was brave enough to whistleblow, not frightened of anyone and frightening anything against Boeing, the giants, but he couldn't face a court. Yeah, of course, we're all meant to believe that all the world's a show. I actually did giggle. I wasn't giggling about the bridge going down. I was just thinking, so let me get this right. All the years that those ships have gone under that bridge.
Right.
Just happened to hit that pillar. Anyway, yesterday, I think it was yesterday, or it was the day before, I posted something on Twitter, and it's had, I think it's about 200,000 views, and it's hysterical because I said I never did lockdown, I never took a Depop shot, I never wore a mask, and I never did all this because I walk in authority. Well, we all know, because that's in scripture, when I say I walk in authority, it's not my ego, it's walking in my authority in Christ. So, of course, the post was spectacular because it brought everybody out of the woodwork. Oh, look at her, she's trying to get attention. Well, I certainly did get everyone's attention, good and bad. And I was called everything from A to Z. And what was really interesting is people were still saying, well, I wore a mask, I'm righteous. I did this, I stayed in, I'm righteous. Even though we know that our own government didn't stay in, had parties, didn't wear a mask.
No.
Yeah, so
the governor here in where I live was out partying at bars without a mask.
Yeah, so they know all this. They know that they've been fined. They know all this, but they want to believe still that it's a pandemic. Why? Because they don't read the one book which everything is in. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and the darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The Spirit of God, God and the Holy Spirit are one. What is that movement? It's energy. They don't know any of that. But anyway, let's also take a look at, I just love this story. It just gets better and better and better. Kate Middleton, not spotted since, what was it? Christmas Day? I don't remember.
Right.
But there was a cavalcade. Yeah, there was a cavalcade. A few of their royal cars spotted going from Sandringham into, I think it was St George's Hospital, wasn't reported on. The fact that her mother was cut from vehicle wreckage in March and airlifted from that car accident. That's not really talked about any much now. But she's apparently, we're all supposed to believe that she dug out of her closet some manky sweater.
Right.
From 7 years ago, which she wore in another video.
Yeah, 7 years ago. We're supposed to believe it, with her hair completely curfewed. Where, please, somebody tell me where you can buy daffodils that are static and that they don't move at all in the wind. And the fact that the bench, you have her reflection in it, which means green screen. I mean, it's so obvious, it's embarrassing.
And William not by her side either.
Yeah, nobody. And listen, if you'd have seen me this morning, when I wake up with a chihuahua between my knees and one on my head, we're talking Medusa. If when I've not got even a bit of makeup on, I look very, very different. So what they've tried to do, and we all look a bit different. That's why women, wear red lipstick. Like, look at me, I'm alluring. When just like baboons' backsides are bright red. Anyway, the point being, we're supposed to believe that that's her, and we know that there was a hologram in the gold carriage going through London, and all the public with their plastic Union Jacks were waving at this hologram of the Queen. Anyway, so she's sat there on a bench on her own. Oh, her husband's in public with no wedding ring on, marching around, and she does this very controlled speech. I've got cancer. They didn't think it at first, and I'm having chemo, but it's not affecting my hair or nails, which affect everybody's fast-growing cells. And you're supposed to believe this. You know what? All of these people that go, "Oh, you're so terrible." Oh, shut up! I've worn that T-shirt. I've got the badge. I've done the whole banana because I had the cancer 7 years ago. I'm now looking after my daughter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, because she's refused all of their poison. And let me tell you, she was literally at death's door because it was pressing on the major blood vessels, occupying a tiny space in her chest, her aorta, everything. And she's doing really well. And a lot of those symptoms are going. But the point, and her bloods are really good, incidentally, as well. They're all coming back to normal. Definitely can't be lymphoma now, can it? But we're supposed to believe this, just as the UK plan for the national messenger RNA cancer vaccine advance. So, Prince Charles, there's a letter on the wall of the Gerson Institute down in Mexico advocating and supporting the Gerson therapy. He was good friends with Beata Bishop. Beata Bishop, her book, A Time to Heal, was where she had, I think it was a recurrence of melanoma. They wanted to amputate her leg right at the hip joint. She's still alive today. She wrote the book with Charlotte Gerson, Healing the Gerson Way, Charlotte Gerson and Beata Bishop. Fantastic book, like all my books covered in coffee enema. But this is an amazing book. So he's already said, I'll be using natural therapies. That right, Charles? Did you like the way I had to straighten up there? So you can bet your bottom dollar, Kate Middleton is not going to be having mustard gas injected into her veins. And I can't believe that the public, we pay for these people. So when people are saying we want to know. Now today, don't forget as well, we've also, we know that they are injecting into all the women that are having babies, this synthetic oxytocin to make the uterus contract so that the afterbirth is delivered quickly. Absolutely terrible. Of what it does, a prolonged induction of augmentation of labour, like the case long-term uterine exposure to oxytocin and other uterotonic drugs increase the uterine wall stress and can result in rupture, particularly when labour is obstructed. They routinely give it. And the little piece de resistance of that was one of the nurses actually said on this interview on BBC Radio 4, hosted by India Rakusan, a nurse making points patients made about the oxytocin as a trainee was told, if you are going to start acting as a patient advocate, you have no future in medicine. So you see, it's all, yeah, that was what a nurse said. Because these points were all made by the patients about this synthetic oxytocin, what it does, it's very dangerous. And this nurse said, well, if you're going to start acting as a patient advocate, you have no future in medicine. This is what you're told, which is true. Yeah. Anyway, it's all rubbish. So in the press today, it was reported, and I'm going to finish on a good note because you know me. In the press today, I loved it. It was reported, where is it? Forget the immigration. I mean, You couldn't make it up. And the UN, we've got the UN figures. It's on my Twitter feed, Penny. I've just posted it, and the site. It's the last thing I've just posted on Twitter. You've even got the link of where you can find those United Nations numbers. And just remember what the United Nations is. They're not good. They're not good at all. It's actually the new Tower of Babel. Look at the building. Look at the building of where it is. That is what your United Nations is. But anyway, call me a conspiracy theorist. Oh, my word.
Yeah.
So in the press today, we have alarm over mystery cancer epidemic.
Yes.
Striking the under 50s like Kate Middleton. Oh, she's one of us now. She's got cancer. And every good Macmillan and oncology nurse puts their head to the side in empathy. Oh, they do. I've seen them do it. I think they teach them that, don't they? Anyway, so as scientists scramble, the only thing they're scrambling is their brains and some eggs. Scientists scramble to find the cause of the startling increase. They're laughing at you. They're laughing at you. Scientists, bastardized science. 46% increase in deaths under 30s reported in America by the insurance companies. They're laughing at you. And if you look at the picture of Kate, not a hair blows out of place on her head on that garden bench. So what we know what's causing it, because all the cancer charities were reporting this before COVID, 1 in 2 set to increase to 100% within 2 decades. Toxic air, toxic food, toxic water, toxic air with EMFs. And then you bring in all of the vaccines, all the childhood vaccines with immortalized cell lines added. Now you bring in the COVID one with SV40, simian virus 40. It's all in there. Do you need any more proof? But they're going to get all of you yet again that took the COVID shot in the first place, that fight and go down my Twitter. I never even answer any of these because it's like entertainment for me.
And now they're going to put it in the food.
Yeah, well, you know what? Don't worry about that, David, because what did the good Lord give us? He gave us stomach acid.
Yes.
You get that stomach acid on the lining of your own stomach. What does your own stomach have as its lining? Folds of mucus. What do we need to keep those folds of mucus in place? We need lots of water.
Right.
God gave us the water, did he not? He parted it, as above, so below. Water. So when we don't drink and our bodies are mostly water and we're dehydrated, what's the first thing that it does? That mucus membrane, that mucus fold begins to get thin. So the acid in our stomach begins to burn a hole in the lining of our stomach. And then what do? They go along and they find that bacteria, Helicobacter, is it bacteria, Helicobacter pylori, but that bacteria, and they say, oh, it's that bacteria that's causing your stomach ulcer that's eaten a hole. We're going to give you antibiotics to get rid of it. No, that bacteria will always go to the site to chow down all the debris. It's not the bad guy. You just find it there, just like you find low density lipoprotein where you've got holes in your blood vessels from toxicity. And then they give you a drug and then you get dementia. So when you get stomach acid on the own lining of your stomach because your mucus is going thin because you're not drinking enough water, your hydrochloric acid will burn a hole in it. So what did you say to me there? Right. So when you eat food, provided your thyroid is functioning because you're not drinking their fluoride, chlorine and bromine, you're taking iodine rich foods or a supplement, you're going to have 1.5 to 3.5 that's going to deal with what comes down the hatch. And the same as when you breathe in, you've got your mast cells. So don't be too worried about that. If they were going to control the food and put it in the food by now, they would have done it. Why would they go to all the trouble of developing something and getting you all to queue up, knowing that lots of you are not going to fall for it, and inject it into you and breach the integrity of this temple? They could just put it in the food, in the water for you to drink. It's very easy. That everybody gets it, don't they? So I think it's the Persian. What's the biggest trick? People poison the water hole. They could have easily done that, but they didn't. Why? So, because of course this is a sacrifice. So anyway, I've just told you something really interesting, people, that you need to remember there. If you're drinking, I don't know, 1.5 litres a day of your tea, coffee, fruit juices, herbal teas, you also need to be drinking another litre. So in between each of those drinks, keep a big litre, 1.5 litre bottle of water, clean water next to your kettle, and have 4 ounces. Keep your mucus going. There was a Persian prisoner when they had I think it was during the Islamic Revolution. I've ordered his book in Iran, and he was imprisoned for being a dissident, and all he could do, all the people, word went round that he was a doctor, and so everybody used to go to him. What can you do? Well, all he had access to was water. He used to just give them water. Have this, drink this every hour. And what happened? A lot of their symptoms started to go because they were drinking loads of water. So when it came time for him to be released, he said, well, actually, can I stay in a little bit longer because I'm doing a bit of a study? And he did. And he wrote the most wonderful book. Just let me go into because I like to use the devil's tool back at them. I use Amazon when it suits me. So I've ordered the book. I can't wait. Arriving. Oh, when's it arriving? I'm excited now. The 24th of April. I'm waiting for it. And there was a book that's in my inbox today that's £331. I'll be waiting a long time for that. But this book is called Water. Your Body's Many Cries for Water by F. Batman Lydia, MD. You're not sick, you're thirsty. Don't treat your thirst with medication.
A lot of people do not drink enough water.
We're mostly water. So I'm not buying the whole Kate Middleton thing, but lots of people will because they're afraid. They're afraid of dying. I hate to tell everybody. It's coming to all of us.
Yeah. There's no way.
Yeah, but you don't really die. It's just a sleep. It's preparing you for the next life. It's just preparing you for the next life. And it does tell us what we can and can't have in our body. And God said, behold, I've given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And to every beast of the earth and every fowl of the air and to everything that creepeth on the earth wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw the thing that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Well, let's look at rosemary. What's rosemary good for? Cancer, antibacterial, and make your hair grow. You can grow it in your garden.
Somebody should give that to William.
Yeah. Well, you know what? They're nothing to me. They're just people. But let's just, before we finish, because we've got 6 minutes. I'm well prepped today. Did you like that?
You're always prepped. You're fantastic.
It's all in my head. And I'm in dog walk, grubby gear. But anyway, look. Ozone. Ozone is one of 3 forms called allotropes. Why am I talking to you about ozone? Because it's all around. I've got an ozonator. I've just blown the circuit on it because I didn't use the I can't remember what it was. My ex-husband told me off because we're on 240 and I think you're on 110 volts. So I didn't use the transfer. Get another one. But my daughter goes to hyperbaric, which I'll tell you. But ozone is one of 3 forms of allotropes of the element oxygen. Now, ozone was the focus of considerable research in the 1930s in Germany, where it was successfully used to treat patients suffering from inflammatory bowel disorders, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease, and chronic bacterial diarrhea. Successfully used. As we were, and it's talking in the book, used for hepatitis, Epstein-Barr. They put Epstein-Barr in vaccines. Hydrogen peroxide and ozone hold great promise. Yes, they do. In 1920. 2 doctors were treating Indian patients who were in the military who were dying of bacterial pneumonia, the ones that were dying. And they gave them a very titrated intravenous hydrogen peroxide and saved 50% of them. They don't tell you that, do they? So we use 3%. My daughter sprays it over her entire body, not on your hair or eyebrows, when she comes out the shower and rubs it into her skin. So hyperbaric oxygen. 100% pure oxygen administered at 2 to 3 times normal atmospheric pressure. To begin with, the patient is placed in a specifically designed chamber. The pressure in the chamber is gradually increased, which causes a rise in the body's blood plasma oxygen content that results in enhanced oxygen delivery to compromised tissues. That it results in it. When HBO therapy, oxygen can be dissolved in the blood plasma and go directly into the tissues. What do you know about cancer? It doesn't need oxygen. It's anaerobic. It ferments. What happens when you throw oxygen at it? They die. The technique's also important systemic effect is on bacterial growth, and it enhances the body's overall inflammatory response. What do you need to heal? Your body has to inflame. The 4 stages of healing. You get the first bit where bleeding stops if you cut yourself. Then the second stage, it all starts to knit together. Inflammation, where it goes all big and red, and then scar tissue formation that can take up to 2 years. So your inflammatory response, hyperbaric oxygen reduces swelling or edema. That's fluid in the tissues. Produces antioxidant effects. What's an antioxidant? It treats oxidative stress, free radicals, where one of your electrons drops off and you need your vitamin C, so it also does that. And it promotes new blood vessel formation in areas of the body where the blood supply is compromised. Do you see? Are they offering anybody hyperbaric as a standard treatment against cancer? Or are they offering them hydrogen peroxide? No. They want to inject you into your systemic circulation with mustard gas. And what did the Lord give us? Oxygen!
Yes.
It's very, very simple. The new oxygen prescription. This is such a wonderful book. You don't need to be a medic to read this. The book I just told you, the one that was 330 quid, it's also on my... If anyone's got that book and you've read it, please do get in touch with me. The one that's £331 on my Twitter feed, I want it to...
No.
Somebody doesn't want her to talk about it.
She froze.
No, I didn't.
No,
I'm hardwiring, Penny.
Oh.
And the hardwire has moved the computer. I don't want to Wi-Fi. So you see, it dropped out. I just as a little side note here, this gentleman here, I'm just going to give him a shout out. I am Keith Mann. He was jailed for opening all the labs that had all the animals in. He used to set them free, big animal activist. And he got lymphoma, huge, big. My daughter had none of these symptoms, incidentally. And he cured himself completely with the Gerson therapy. And a hand juicer. Yeah, what an awesome bloke. I just happened to see it there. And he was the one that saved all the animals. Anyway, so look, here's a book of mine that was 50 quid. Fluoride in your drinking water. Why do you think they tested fluoride? There was 2 types of camps in Nazi Germany. The work camps and the experiment camps. They gave them all fluoride because they wanted to see what it did. Fluorosis of the skeleton. You are electrical. It changes all that. And it displaces iodine from the thyroid gland. The first thing you've got to do is water. Drink your pure water, Dr. Emoto. Breathe, get your oxygen in. And then what else do? You start eating the herbs. You start getting herbs. Grow your own. And I was listening to your guest before about aloe vera. You can get great big aloe vera plants. You scoop out the flesh. You pop it in a blender. Then you pour it into an ice cube tray. Pop it in your freezer and put one of those ice cubes in your drinks. Then what's left on the leaves, you chop them up and put them in your fridge for the week and you cover your body in it. Aloe vera is called the elixir of health. That's what it was. And it's not going to harm you, but I'm sorry if I'm peeing on anyone's supplements here. No. But, one of the things we should always think first is, can I get it in its natural state? Can I grow it? Where do I get it? Because supplement, the clue's in the title. You're supplementing a natural diet. So always do look around. What can you grow? You could have an apartment, just a little balcony. You could grow all your herbs on that balcony. Yes, and you could, yeah. So look,
hydroponics too.
Yeah, well, aquaponics, of course, was the people in Gaza. I've got a book on that. Aquaponics is not hydroponics. When the people in Gaza were starving, they did it because of all the sanctions. That was where it was developed, in Gaza, aquaponics. I gave one of the Modi brothers a tatty old book on aquaponics, the two rich Modi brothers from Delhi. One of them, he was the one that put together the Indian Cricket League. And the other one they're multi-millionaires. And I went to the house in Belgravia, invited to India. What do you give someone who's got everything? I gave him a tatty old book of mine tied with a ribbon and a rose out my garden. And he was, I said, grow things, because he started growing things. So, you can have a little greenhouse, have your fish, you can eat your fish, or you can just have them in there. You can grow every square inch. I bet you thought I wouldn't know about that, didn't you, David? There's not much that goes by me. Apart from my fingernails. That's a woman that's digging.
Right.
Doing stuff. Yeah, I'm going after this show I keep going around all the builders merchant. I've just bought some concrete, ready mixed. I thought I'd have a go. I just quite like having a go at these things myself. But yeah, you know what? Everything is there for you. Stop relying on their system. Stop relying on it. Did anybody see Sam Smith? Did you see Sam Smith at the concert? The English singer who did the theme tune to James Bond. And he's now big and fat. He's a gay guy, and he was wearing a black corset and suspenders and stockings. And he had a necklace that said sex on it, children in the audience.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they're putting a big bag over his head of net. And he's strutting around doing all this stuff, singing. And Taylor Swift, what's all that about? Thousands of people want to watch someone.
That's a show in itself.
80 penny pantyhose, or tights as you call them. I mean, how thick are those pantyhose? And those basque things on. It's like like a cult. The people are in a trance. They're being mesmerized.
Yes.
Switch it off. Switch it off. And see what floats through your head when you've not got your ear pods in.
Kate,
See
will you tell your daughter that we send our love to her?
She's great. She's starting to get lippy. I know she's getting better.
Right.
Good news.
Yeah, you know what? I'm just going to tell you what we've tried. Chlorine dioxide, CDS. I had Dr. Kalker on. And I'm going to eventually go and do all their training that they do for the physicians. But I thought I don't tell anybody to do anything I don't try myself. I tried a chlorine dioxide, the CDS, made with the gas in the kilner jar. Enema. I tried one as an enema. It's got to be done in a plastic bucket with the distilled water. But my daughter's been having CDS as well. And I tried that enema, and I was like Corky the cat the next day. I felt cleansed. Because what does it do? It takes oxygen to everywhere that you need oxygen. At any sites of inflammation, it delivers oxygen. If you're doing something rectally as opposed to orally, don't get upset about your backside, because in France, they all give drugs rectally. Why? Because it goes straight into the portal vein and into the systemic circulation. It's not got to go down through your stomach, duodenum, into your intestine to go on the main highway to the liver. It gets straight in there and off it goes. So, I tried it, and you're not going to overdose on it. But I would suggest drkalker.com, KALCKER. That would be a great guest for you to interview.
Yes, please send me, text that to me in our thread. And unfortunately, we've run out of time for today.
Thank you for having me on, and naturalnurse@mail.com if you need me. Naturalnurse@mail.com. KateShemirani.com. My website, we keep going up and down because we keep adding to it. Don't worry, it's all going to be sorted. And I'm now on Sundays, TNTradio.live. My show is on Sundays, 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. GMT.
We love you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Right.
I will see you all soon. Take care.
God bless. Kate Shemirani here on the Awake Nation. We're going to bring in our next guest in just a moment, but first let's get some headlines going here. This is going to blow your mind, folks. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador warned Sunday during an interview with 60 Minutes that unless the United States complies with Latin America's requests for aid, the tide of migrants will continue flooding into the United States. In January, Obrador issued a series of demands for what the U.S. must do to stop the flow of migrants to the border ranging from sending Latin American countries $20 billion in aid a year to granting some level of amnesty for illegal immigrant workers in the United States. Mexico has reportedly taken some state-level action to curb mass migration at President Biden's request, making crossings drop. However, the thousands of migrants has begun to rise again, with Border Patrol expecting another surge coming very soon. All right, that is going to do it for that. Now let's bring in our next guest, David Baumblatt. David, welcome back to the Awake Nation. How are you? It's been a while.
Hi, David. Hi, Penny. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I have a lot to talk about, but yeah, thank you so much. I guess the first thing I should say is I'm banned off Twitter. So if you try to find me on Twitter, yeah, I get that from people. They're like, I can't find you on Twitter. Where are you? Well, I've been banned.
Now, are you talking about since Elon Musk took it back over?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I mean, I've always said I think Elon Musk is in the middle. I think he's doing a good job. Maybe I'm just an anomaly, but the free speech didn't work for me. I was brand new to social media about a little bit more than 6 months ago. So when I originally got on Twitter, it was obviously during Elon Musk, but and I tried to skirt around it. I tried to open up another account just to see. They caught me. Oh yeah, they caught me, and they suspended that account too. So it was over. When you get suspended on Twitter, what happens is, you're suspended, you get an email. What was the reason? Talking about violence. Everyone knows I talk about civil war. And again, I do talk about that we could do this non-violently, but I talk about civil war a lot. So they said, you're violating the, you're talking violence. I tried to do an appeal. The appeal was denied, permanently suspended. Then a month later, I opened up another account just to try it, different sort of name, different that. They found it and they suspended me again.
Well, we will continue to hope that eventually they wake up to the fact that what you have to say is very important. And where do you want to start today?
Yeah, and I like to point to the audience. The reason why I'm very different on social media is I never had a goal to become a social media person. I never wanted to go on social media. I truly thought that when I petitioned to the politicians, I thought this was going to be worked out in private. I never thought I was going to write a book. So when I say to the American people, watch this, I'm going to just show you why America is corrupt and it's falling down. This message is to the American people. If you as an American citizen have government corruption to report, especially at the federal level, you have something to report government corruption. What do? It's an interesting question. What do you do? Most people would say, well, I'll contact my local congressman or senator. Okay, that's what I thought. I contacted every single one. What if they don't respond? And so the American people, if I could get this problem solved, I'd be happy tomorrow to shut down all my social media and go back to become a private person. But the point of that not one politician has answered me is crazy. And in fact, I know they're getting it because I'm going to mention one politician who indirectly answered me, and I'll show they have it. Again, so everyone that knows it, January of 2022, I sent it to every single congressman and senator. So the newly elected ones in 2023, they didn't get it, the newly elected ones. But for 2022, all that year, all the way till March of 2023. So what happened was, and I've got this recorded, the person's name is Nicholas Tardy. Nicholas Tardy from Florida sent me an email, and he says, hey, David, I work for Congressman Soto, who happens to be a Democrat. But if anyone knows my feeling, I think Democrats and Republicans both suck. So I used to be more like a Republican. Yeah. I used to think I like the Republicans. I think they both suck. But this guy's a Democrat. So Congressman Soto never replied to me. But he said, Nicholas Tardy, this guy's probably a military veteran because he says, I work under Congressman Soto in the Wounded Warrior program. Wounded Warriors usually have, military veterans. So he worked for Wounded Warrior, and he says he got this information from Congressman Soto. He reached out to me. It didn't work out. I gave the guy an A for effort. He wanted me to come to America to talk to him. I said, listen, I think you're misunderstanding. I want to get this problem solved overseas. I don't feel like going to America. Can we talk on the phone? Can we do something? But what I'm saying to the American people is, our politicians who have our tax money, they have my story. I'm a military veteran. They're ignoring me. And I go to Elon Musk. Elon Musk, just get my story to the politicians, let them answer it, and I'll shut down my Twitter voluntarily, and I'll go back to becoming a private individual. But it shows the American people why we have a corrupt government, because if we have a system where if you have government corruption and you can't even report it, like the people don't, I mean, and I worked in the private sector. This is like compliance, whistleblower programs, speak up programs in the private sector. If we can't even have this in the government, then how can we ever, you could say, tackle? And I think the reason is, I think most people know that the politicians, and I'll go into the bigger picture with China, but we're basically a corporation. And really the politicians, their number one deal is reelection. So whatever they do in their mind, how is this going to help them get reelected? And if it doesn't really help them get reelected, then why should they do it?
Right.
You know, it's like the typical American, like we're money oriented, you know, what's in it for me? What's, you know, where it should be like, no, you're a politician, you swore an oath, you know, you're there to serve the citizens, you should do it. But their thing is reelection.
Yeah, that's all. That's all they care about. And you're right about us being a corporation. We have been one since 1871. A lot of people do not realize that because they don't look into these things. But we have a major battle with corruption in government, all levels. How do we get past that? So what do you see happening?
Yeah. So, and again, the bigger picture is I truly think we are going to go against a collapsed civil war, this, that, we're going to go. And part of the reason is this is going to get very controversial. But I got to admit, living in China, it's changed my mind. The two biggest things that changed my life experience, besides, you know, my father, you know, childhood obviously is a big deal. But outside childhood, I'd say my military time, because the military, you know, it's a different world. People go into the military, you learn about leadership. And it's, I think only 1% of the American public served in the military. It's a different world, and it's changed my life. The other is China, because China's a different world, you know, and I'm fluent in the German language. I lived in Europe, but Europe and America have a lot of similarities, you know, European culture, stuff like that. China is very, very different. And the one thing that I could say is this: many times I view America many times as the country that's going down the road of communism, not China. I view China more as fascism, or what we say ethno-nationalism. If you look at the non-Western world, I look at them more as fascism. They used to be communism. They used to be. But when Deng Xiaoping, 1970s, took charge, he started opening up its transition of fascism. Now, I'm not saying good. I'm not saying bad. You'll be the judge. But what I am saying is there's a lot of things that we're doing in America that's going down the path of communism. And I think, picture, this could be a bad example, but picture if you were working for the corporation Enron, right? You know, during the latter days of Enron, and someone says, hey, what should we do? How should we fix this? And I think someone's going to say, dude, there's nothing we can do. This corporation's going to go bankrupt. It is what it is. It's just going that way, and then we'll figure it out. That's how I view America, because here's a great example. I actually go harder on China than most Americans. You can't say it because there's a racial component that everyone's afraid of in America. Everyone's afraid to talk about race. I actually am harder on China than most Americans. But here's the point. All these Americans, China's evil. China's bad. We got to get bad on China. And then they go to Walmart and they say, wow, that's a pretty cheap product right there. Yup, me. And oh, by the way, I worked for Walmart when I was in China. Oh, yeah, thank you, American customer. This is made in China. Your money is going to go straight to the Chinese CCP. Or you could buy made in America, but it's going to be more expensive. Screw that. I learned all of my lessons from the corporations. I'm all about money. I could care less. Here's my money. Send it to the Chinese government, and I'm going to buy cheap stuff. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. This problem is just infested all in America.
Walk to any store, and I'll bet you, I mean, like a Walmart, you know, whatever, and you're going to find that 90 out of every 100 items you look at is manufactured in China.
It is, and I'd say at the end of the day, really, we have turned in, like I said, a corporation. We don't have any morals anymore. I'm going to give you an example of the difference between China and America. And China can be ruthless, trust me. And I could tell you about a trip. I'm in Hong Kong. I just got back from mainland China. That was interesting because China's changing. The point being is this. The Chinese government can be absolutely ruthless to the Chinese people. I mean, if there's like an issue, let's just say 1 million Chinese in a country of 1.5 plus billion people, if 1 million Chinese have to perish, they can do it.
Oh, yeah.
Tyrannical. But here's the difference. The Chinese government, every single government CCP delegate, 100%, they view the future of China 100% Chinese people, 100%. People like me, I'm nothing more than a guest. People like you, you're nothing more than a guest. The future of China has to be Chinese. In our country, we're all replaceable. We're all replaceable. Whoever's cheap, whoever's obedient, we are all, our culture, our religion, it doesn't matter. We are all replaceable. I'm telling you, China and the economy, I'll talk about the China's economy is definitely dipped hard, but I am still optimistic about China's future, and I'm still pessimistic about America's future. Even if Donald Trump gets elected, and I've always said I think he's the best president of my entire lifetime. Yeah. Donald Trump gets elected, I'm still pessimistic. He ain't going to save it. This whole system is not going to last. We're compromised. Everywhere from our CIA to our FBI, we could go into it. But our government, and here's a great example. I've said this before. Notice how hard we are on Russia, Iran, all these, but we're not so hard on China because it's all about the money. It's all about the money because we're making money off China, the corporations and the politicians. So, you follow the money. It is what it is. But, even in the news, we're talking about Boeing. Boeing has a very bad reputation now. Go to my Rumble episode 2 where I sued the Boeing company. This company is corrupt. No one would believe me before because they're like, the Boeing Corporation, this is like this legacy, military. It's like, who are you, David Baumblatt? We don't believe you. No one believes me. But picture this. I sued Boeing, totally corrupt. They terminated me illegally. And part of the reason they terminated me, not just because discrimination. There was issues that I was telling about Boeing of why are we working with the Chinese? I kept wondering what is going on there. It's all about the money. But here you have a military veteran. I was illegally terminated by the Boeing company, took my case to a Chinese court. Remember, China doesn't have any justice system. You hear it all the time. I'm one of the few foreigners to ever take a case to the Chinese court system. So I'm living proof that I sued the Boeing company. You'd think the enemy would be a foreign company. This is the Boeing company that's always big about military veterans, military industrial. We're all about protecting Americans. They illegally fire me. Oh, by the way, they replaced me with a Chinese national. Right. And the Chinese courts granted me a victory. I sue Boeing in America. And of course, if I sued him in America, the senior vice president from Seattle would have to testify. It was I was so in the right. When you spend $50,000 your own money, you probably think to yourself, you probably have a good case. And that absolutely corrupt Judge Pallmeyer, the federal judge in Chicago, she collaborated with the Boeing, wouldn't even let my case go to court. I never even got my case to go to court. And so when I look at the justice system, and then I think about this Boeing company, people don't realize this government and these corporations are absolutely corrupt because there's no more values, there's no more loyalty, and also there's no more religion. We've lost religion, which is a sense of morality. It's all about the money, people. That's why our government is compromised to China and not to these other countries. But, even look at this guy, Gallagher. This guy's a scumbag. This guy's a military veteran, Congressman Gallagher, who voted that, and he's on I know more about China than this guy Gallagher will ever learn his entire life. And he's on the China committee. And yet he didn't vote to seal the border. To the American people, let's just use common sense. You don't need to be an intelligence officer. I'm the director of the FBI. And I get on national television and I tell you that China is a threat. China's a threat. China's a threat. At the same time, I've got the southern border open and you got illegal Chinese coming on in there, spies, terrorists. So here I am, the FBI. China's the enemy. What about the southern border? No comment. But hear me, I'm a military veteran. When I go to America, I'm on full surveillance. I get physically assaulted. I mean, you think that just getting physically assaulted should be enough for a criminal act for a politician to say, okay, let's listen to him. But when I come into America, I'm absolutely in the pocket of the FBI surveillance. These Chinese nationals coming in from the southern border, who cares? Come on in. Here's our money. Here, and nothing's making sense, people, because I'm telling you, we work for the corporations. And that's what I'm telling you is the good part about China. China, at the end of the day, they are nationalists. You don't have to say China first in China. It's so obvious. Everybody knows for the China first. But when you have globalists in our government, it's not America first. They don't care. We're replaceable. You gotta look at the difference between J. Edgar Hoover and you look at this guy, Director Wray. Director Wray is a globalist corporate lawyer. That's the director of the FBI. This guy is a globalist corporate lawyer. His law firm works. The clients in his law firm are the CCP. You can't make this up. Under J. Edgar Hoover, let me tell you something. You like J. Edgar Hoover or not? 100%. If J. Edgar Hoover was in charge, that border would be sealed. Everyone knows J. Edgar Hoover was a racist. That guy was one of the biggest racists around. He didn't like foreigners. He didn't like foreigners at all. That southern border would be sealed, and anyone stopping him would be arrested. But you got Director Ray. He's not. Director Ray should call the southern border national. And oh, by the way, retired FBI assistant directors have gone on record and said there was a clip on Fox News. So retired FBI senior leadership have come out and said they believe the southern border is a national security issue. These are retired FBI executives. Why isn't Director Ray saying that? How can Director Ray say China is a threat, but ignore the southern border where thousands upon thousands of illegals, Chinese? It doesn't make sense. And that's what I'm saying is the biggest thing that I bring to the American people. And I use that term about the Wizard of Oz. You know, you going behind the curtain and that was me in China, because we say China's the enemy. But if you go to China, you see American corporations, American banks, Republicans and Democrats. They love China because they love money. And that's what we are in America. It's all about the money. And that's what I've said. I'm not saying China's our friend. And like I said, I'd go even harder on China, but it's not our number one threat.
No, but the only thing that I'm concerned about with China is the possibility that they do have those that could corrupt our, could shut down our infrastructure and, hacking and that sort of thing.
So this is what I would say, but you can't say this in America because, like I said, we're really not afraid of China. We're afraid of talking about topics of race, feminism. That's really what we're really afraid of.
That's true. Yeah.
But what would I do? Number one, I would not grant American citizenship to any Chinese. None. Right. Why? I can't become a Chinese citizen. Meaning, FBI number one is we focus on the insider threat. Everyone knows that the insider threat is the most dangerous threat. Whether you're in a corporation, whether you're in a government, it's the insider threat. But I go back to the southern border. These illegal Chinese, they're going to become American citizens. They're going to become American citizens.
Dick Durbin says, "Hey, man, you serve in our military, and
they're going to do that. Yeah, we're done. That's the one thing. And even though I talk about China, I would take this view with a lot of non-Western countries. And I would just, to any American that's afraid of being called a racist, I've said this before, take race out of it and just use legality. If we cannot become a citizen in their country, they can't become a citizen in ours. And that's basically almost the entire non-Western world. Excellent. But I would never allow Chinese to become American citizens. That right there is probably one of the safest things you can do to keep America safe from, an insider threat. Because once more and more of Chinese or other nationalities from non-Western countries come into America, they become citizen, we're going to lose our country because we're going to be compromised from within, which is happening already.
Now, let's assume that you're right, and I have no reason to doubt you because you're a very insightful individual. But let's say that we're going to go off the cliff, where there is no turning back, even with a Donald Trump. And I've said this for years. Even the best people that we have had in government, those who have really tried to do right by us and make a difference, all they have done is stave off the eventual collapse of the country, because there's a lot more than any politician can either impose on us or do to help us that can turn the country around. We have to, as a nation, want to turn things around, and we are so damn complacent. Speak to the complacency of the citizens of this country.
Yeah. So I really think, I remember, even though I think education's overrated, there's always a couple good classes you get at college. So it brings back to Harvard. Harvard, there was a class on leadership, politics, and one was called mobilizing people. At the end of the day, people, money, and freedom. At the political level, security and economics, same concept. The point being is people are watching this show and they might say, yeah, I agree with David, but they still got money in the bank. They didn't get fired from their job. They still feel free. And I say a lot of times the problem has got to get worse before things get better, before people, you could say, wake up. Because really right now, there is a problem though with that. Here's the problem. Leaders don't wait until the building is burning. We've all heard of the frog in the boiling water. The danger is it can happen so slowly that people don't realize it. And
I was just going to say that. You said people are going to have to wake up, but it's going to take a long time. Here's the problem. They may never wake up because of the way it's being done.
Yep.
So slowly that it's too late.
And that's why my life has really changed, because when you leave America in 2010, and I really didn't pay too much attention until the last, couple of years with the FBI, now on social media, you really see the difference now, where it's unbelievable. In fact, now that I was on social media, it is a political gauntlet. There is so much anger and tension. We're talking with the American people. It's so obvious our country is falling apart. And my advice to the American people is this. Sometimes leadership 101, military doctrine, you have to retreat and you have to retrench. And what do I mean by that? I believe we lost it at the federal level. Meaning, here's something else I noticed. And I've always said, I believe Trump is the best president of my entire lifetime. But I do see a lot of these Trumpers. They drank the Kool-Aid. They think Trump is going to save it. Like, I'm waiting to find out either one, Trump doesn't get elected, or two, Trump gets reelected, does his 4 years, and it's back to, like, I'm wondering what these Trumpers are going to do now. Meaning, Trump is good. He's not going to solve the problem. And so I believe that eventually, and I've said this before, I believe the federal level is lost. It's lost. So the whole retrench and retreat is at the state level. You are going to start seeing more and more Americans, the whole blue state, red state movie. I mean, I left America. You're going to see these red states, I think, are going to get more red. But the goal to the American people is you're going to need to get a red state that's going to be your refuge, literally like a refuge of a state. But I don't think we're going to get the federal level anymore. I think it's lost.
Well, and you're probably right. And we have had other guests who have said the same thing. We need to organize from the bottom up, that you're not going to make a difference from going to the federal government. You're going to need to do it in your communities. You're going to have to get together and organize. You're going to have to check your politicians at the door of the state government, your city government. Because otherwise, and even that'll be a slow process and could take years before we make that way all the way from the local level to the federal level with a replacement a group of people. But
actually, I have a question for you, David. So I'd like you to comment on John Barnett, the whistleblower, and his suicide, and also the CEO of Boeing, David Callahan, is stepping down, and also Stan Deal, president, CEO also of the commercial airlines, retiring. Can you tell us what your thoughts are on that John Barnett Boeing suicide whistleblower?
Well, yeah, you would hope that there's an absolute full investigation from law enforcement to figure out what happened. But to the American people, and I've said this before, people look at the FBI and the CIA, they're controlling the world. I use the FBI, and I've said the word before, goon squad. They're the goon squad, they're the henchmen. They're very powerful. I'm not saying that. But the really powerful are what? The banks and the corporations. And I don't think people realize how powerful Boeing is. Again, I work for first, Boeing is part of the military industrial complex.
Yes.
Boeing is 100-year. In fact, the guy Boeing, his last name was Boeing. He was a German guy. He studied in Switzerland. Then he moved to America. He saw the Wright brothers. In fact, one time Boeing was so powerful, it was a monopoly. Boeing was, you've all heard of United Airlines, and you've heard of Pratt & Whitney, the engine. That was Boeing. They had all three combined. Then I forgot when this was. When I was in Boeing, we had to learn the history. I don't know if it was 1950 or something. The government stepped in. They said, you're a monopoly. You have to split. So that's where we got United Airlines. We have Boeing's, and then we have Pratt & Whitney. But before all three were combined, that's pretty powerful, as anyone can imagine. And anyone that's connected in the military-industrial complex, which Boeing is probably one of the leader or one of the leaders of it, it is unbelievably powerful. So I go back when people say FBI, CIA, you look at Boeing. Boeing has much more influence around the world. They weren't just in China. They were in India. They're around the world. So anyone that goes up against there, like this whistleblower, good luck to them, because I'm telling you that the only reason I won my court case in China, well, that was the Chinese government. They're not afraid. Whereas in America, this federal judge, I guarantee was because in order to do my case, a senior vice president from the headquarters in Seattle would have to testify. What they did to me was absolutely wrong. So the federal judge and Boeing were in cahoots. And again, over 30% of their revenue comes from the American taxpayer. So back to the question about the whistleblower, this is not just a normal company. This is absolutely the American industrial complex, and anyone that goes up against this, because Boeing's both in the commercial realm, in the military realm, and they are infested in Washington, D.C., meaning the lobbying and everything like that. So, no, we have lost this feeling of justice in America. That's something else that I've changed my feeling on, whether we're talking the law enforcement aspect of it, the prosecutor aspect of it, or the judge aspect of it, the judicial system. I've absolutely lost faith in the American system. Whoever's got influence and money, which Boeing does, they're going to win, and anyone who goes up against them. And I go back to the whistleblower thing, too, on what happened to this gentleman. And I got to sidetrack a little with Edward Snowden and Julian Assange. And to the American public, I say again, because I hear this sometimes. For instance, with Edward Snowden, I've heard this. I've heard people say, I think Edward Snowden is right, but he broke regulations by doing this and doing this and doing this. They kind of like, they poke fun. To the American people, the whistleblower system in America is completely broken. It's completely broken. Yeah. Nothing will get done, and you will get retaliated. And so when the whistleblower system is broken, all the blame should be on the government to fix the whistleblower system. But I am tired of hearing these people who poke at these whistleblowers to say, well, they technically violated that. They should have informed the supervisor first, and then they're that. No, the whistleblower system's complete. Because I also whistleblower, not just with Boeing. That I should have been protected by what's called the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, but also with the FBI when I sent to Senator Chuck Grassley in 2007. It's broken. So back to the whistleblower in with the Boeing issue. I haven't heard any news yet, but I would think there is an absolute full investigation. But then again, considering Boeing's influence, I wouldn't have much hope on that investigation.
I doubt it, but I found it interesting. There is now an app out where you can choose what kind of a plane you want to fly on. So if you book a vacation trip or someplace where you can check if it's going to be a Boeing. Well, I know Boeing. I know that's a problem. Boeing.
It's a duopoly, In fact, I did when I was working for Boeing. I did a stint working with Comac. Comac is the Chinese air company in Shanghai. I forget what the acronym is, but that's their Boeing, because China wants to compete. Because really, if you think about it, you got Boeing, you got Airbus, you got this other firm called Bombardier, which is in Brazil, but it's small. It's not small. But China is competing with them. And I always would ask Boeing, I'm like, why are we working with the Chinese? Why are we giving them technology? And they said it. They said it's a quid pro quo. We give them that, they buy our airplanes. They said China's a cash cow. China, it was an absolute cash cow to Boeing. So, but back to Calhoun, when I was in it, it wasn't Calhoun. It was, I forgot, it was this other guy, I can't forget. But these Boeing executives, I think these people are garbage. They're really, anyone, all you have to do is watch my episode 2. And for me as a military veteran to get justice from the Chinese government, the Chinese judicial system, and what this Boeing company's done, these people, because they always like to say you're America first, American citizens first. because again, a lot of their revenue comes from the American citizens. The problem is, and they know it, just like when someone says, I'm not going to fly in a Boeing airplane. Well, you don't got that many choices. It's basically Airbus. So they got us by the balls, you could say.
If
we
you were
really
to
don't have much
speculate,
choice.
if you were to speculate, David, would you say that John Barnett was suicided? If you were to speculate,
I would say without a doubt, there is enough plausible feeling that, ill intent or ill activities were done. A full investigation needs to be done to the point.
Would you even think that the FBI, who's doing the investigation, would actually, come forward with any truth, or would they obfuscate the truth?
See, that's the problem. And I say this again, one of the reasons why America's going to fall is ask Americans their level of trust to the media, to the FBI, to the judicial system. It continually goes down. For instance, back in the days of J. Edgar Hoover, I'm a former FBI agent. For me, and a West Point grad, for me to come out there and say the FBI is corrupt, J. Edgar Hoover would immediately dispatch an agent to me, even though they didn't. I went out to them so they could kind of protect their reputation. Here I am just saying, yeah, the FBI is corrupt. No one cares anymore. Meaning, what I'm trying to say is, when you see the end of the empire, what happens is the plebes, which are us, the plebes, we are going to start seeing right before our eye blatant corruption. And we would think, how could they do it right in front of our eyes? Don't they want to hide it? They're getting to the point of, one, they're so powerful and the system's collapsing that they don't care anymore. They just don't care, because any FBI, to protect their investigation, protect their reputation, would immediately talk with me and say, all right, David, let's work this in private. But we're starting to see more and more of these institutions. Again, Boeing is basically a quasi-government corporation, but we're seeing all these institutions fall before our eyes, and we're almost scratching our head. Don't they care about their reputation? Don't they care about how Americans feel about their trust? And we're seeing more and more. They don't. It's kind of the end of the empire that's coming. That's one of the reasons that happened in the Roman Empire was the same way. One of the reasons was there was getting to the point that the citizens of Rome had less and less trust. And what people don't realize, because I think, so David, what you said, it's going to take 8 years or something like that for the people to change. I think we're talking about, state politics. I think it's going to be faster. I think it's going to be economics, because I think when we talk about trust, I think Americans sooner or later, like me, you're not even going to trust the US dollar anymore. Like, this system is going to start going down. But anyone, if you were the director of the FBI, and here I am, former FBI, the FBI is corrupt, what would you do? I'd probably say, listen, we got to talk to this guy, David Baumblatt. Let's talk with him. We don't like this stuff. They don't care. It's getting to the point to where corruption is going to get so bad, they don't care. It's kind of even like Biden, where you're thinking, this is getting pretty obvious. He's got some type of thing going in Ukraine. How can this guy keep saying that? They don't care anymore. It's going to get so corrupt, you're going to see it.
No, the corruption is overwhelming. And with regard to currency and our economy, I think you're absolutely right. But I think cash is going to go the way of the dinosaur, and we're going to have some sort of a digital currency system that will enable people to shut your bank account down at a moment's notice. If your social credit score doesn't meet their expectations, I think the whole thing's going to be scrapped in favor of something like that.
It's going to get so bad. I've said this before. Picture North Korea, Iran, China, Russia, whatever you think of these bad actors, use the phrase, the enemy of my enemy. And you're going to realize that this American government is going to get so powerful, you can't stop it. You're nothing. You're going to realize it is going to destroy your life. And any type of other entity, even North Korea, where you're like, if this North Korea can help me, fine, I'll be their temporary friend.
Isn't that amazing how we've gotten to that point? Well, let's speculate a little bit. Let's just say that Donald Trump does get reelected at the end of this year. What can he do? What can he do to at least stave off the disaster, to give people, perhaps, maybe he can at least give us enough time to begin things at the local level and the state level, like you're talking about. What can he do?
So interesting. I'll answer that in two parts. What you just said, I asked Trump, the Trumpster, and again, I like Trumpsters, but I also think they're a little bit too in the Kool-Aid. So I asked them, if Trump gets elected, what's he going to do to fix the problem? And a lot of them are like, Trump will fix it. Yeah, what? What is he going to do? There's not much. So this is one thing that Trump can do, but people don't want to do that. Even Trump, who's a bit of a, he's an alpha male, and sometimes he uses this word law and order, which sounds good, but really the only thing that you could really give the American people that we're wanting, but nobody wants to do it, I don't know if Trump will do it, is something called freedom. But we all know that America, we are being artificially held together. Remember, diversity is our strength. We want diversity. But diversity, we really know.
Inclusion.
Yeah, but we really know that if we had freedom, we would start seeing us drift away from this federal system more into, you could say, state levels and freedom of choice. We would start splitting, meaning there would be a little bit of you could say, a chaos in some ways. So freedom is a dangerous word when you're the boss because you want to keep law and order and keep everything together. But I would say many times what people in America are really wanting more and more is they want freedom. But if we really, really got freedom, we would start seeing this system come to collapse. Meaning, this is what's crazy as a West Point grad, and I come from a family of all military generations of the Civil War. I don't even advocate joining the military anymore. I believe the United States military is I tell young men, join your state militia. That's what I tell them. That's crazy. Yes. I never imagined me saying that. I always would want my kids to go to West Point. But you're realizing this system is going down. So if he gave freedom, whoever the president is, if they give freedom, what is freedom going to do? It's probably going to lead to secession. People are going to want to separate. It's kind of like saying divorce. What if nobody was allowed to get divorced and all of a sudden now you're allowed to get divorced? A lot of people would say, well, I'm out of here. I'm getting divorced. We're splitting. So that's what I would see happen in America. The question is will freedom be given? I don't think so, because I think they know if freedom is given, this system's going to start falling apart.
Well, you make an excellent point. I would also say, however, that we seem to have a society that is more concerned about being taken care of from cradle to the grave more than they want their freedom.
I'm going to give you a point. So,
and they'll say, we know what Benjamin Franklin said: those who would choose safety over liberty deserve neither.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you a point, and this is in China. I'm telling you, China can be brutal. You don't have your job. You don't have any money. You just die. Literally die. If you don't have family members or friends. But what I've seen in America is we've gotten so soft where, everyone's a victim. Everyone else is to blame. The government's to blame. Racism blame. The evil white man is to blame. And we're always like, and if someone says a bad word to us, we're, as much as I thought that Americans are strong, we are becoming more socialized with a lot of this stuff. Our money. We're in China. I'm telling you, in China too, they're more capitalistic than America. In China, money is religion. Get rich, because if you don't have money, you're on your own. So we've just gone soft through the years. And I think this system is just not going to work because we can't afford it anymore. You're going to see we cannot afford this system anymore.
If this system fails, do you actually foresee secession from the union and state
Absolutely.
running in their own? Do you have any time frame on that?
I think it's going to have a lot to do with the U.S. dollar. But here's an example I think that could happen. I tell people, if you want to peacefully protest, it's illegal, but peacefully, stop paying your taxes, because you're paying your taxes into the system, but it's illegal. But picture this scenario. People are obviously moving to red states. If you notice, one thing with red states they have lower state taxes. Some don't have any state tax. So,
right, exactly.
there's a monetary issue too why people like red states. It's part of the American way, Small government, you don't help me, but I don't pay taxes. We're independent, self-reliance. Picture this scenario. You are going to see, and I've said this before, states are going to become more and more powerful. You are going to start seeing governors reach new levels of influence. All of a sudden, now you're an American citizen and you're in one of these red hot states and you say, I'm not paying federal tax anymore. You'll pay state tax, or maybe they don't have state tax, but it's much less. But you're like, I am not paying federal taxes anymore to this system. Then the FBI, IRS, they knock on your door and they say, it's time to pay.
Is that why, David, you think that we had 87 or 86,000 IRS agents now armed with guns?
They're coming for your money. But watch this. You are going to see someone, and I predicted this, if you think Donald Trump is far right or this powerful man, there's going to be others coming that's going to make Donald Trump look lightweight. It's going to be at the state level. And you're going to see a governor that says, federal government, IRS, you are no longer welcome in this state. Get out.
Well,
Get out
that's
of my
already
state.
happening somewhat in Texas, where
you're going to see
the borders. I'm in Texas because the borders have been breached, and our governor has said, we want states' rights to take care of our own state because you're actually breaching the Constitution.
Again, I've said many times, I think America first is a day late and a dollar short. You are going to start seeing state first.
Yeah.
State first.
And Texas has it in their constitution when they signed on to become a state that they have the right to secede. They already had that built in if they don't like the way things are going. So they could do this Texas thing could really happen.
All you have to do is study history and leadership. All it's going to take is one state. You're going to see one state start pushing back on the federal government.
That would be Texas, David.
And again, it's going to be a knock-on effect to these other red states. Once one does it, they're going to see it. But you are going to see, as the system goes down, people are moving. These red states are going to become more red. And the people in there, just like me, how I just gave up on entire America, I left. You're going to see people in America give up on the federal national system. And they say, screw America, I'm Texas, and it is time to put Texas first. That you are going to start seeing that rhetoric, especially in the red states. And then you're going to start seeing, oh man, this is how it's going to be. This is how the secession or maybe the Civil War or the collapse is going to be. It's going to be on state lines.
You don't think that it would have to take a calamity? Because I actually outlined a map in which I saw the disintegration of the United States, and then I separated it into districts, and I mapped out what these districts would be. And I thought perhaps it was as a result of a cataclysmic event, somewhat perhaps a nuclear war, and the precipitation would be the encroachment of both of our coasts, which Russia has said if it has to engage, it does not want to engage in nuclear war, but if it had to, that they have Satan S-2 missiles that could decimate both of our coasts, which would then cause a flooding effect. And then that, to me, in my mind, would be a precipitating factor of all the other crap that's gone on of the secession of many states from the Union.
So I'll answer that in two ways. First, if I was going to bet, though, which state in the world is going to be the aggressive start of war, it's America. We are the war starter.
Yeah.
I just don't.
No, I think we already have started it.
Yeah,
I think we started it with Ukraine.
Absolutely. Like even China's going to have enough trouble getting Taiwan, let alone going to. So who is going to be the aggressor, the military aggressor?
We're always the aggressor.
Exactly. So we're going to provoke it. So that's number one. But number two, what I predict in America, but it's a little bit of two sides of the coin. I keep saying economics is going to be the downfall, but if this economics goes down, 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 will our government, in an effort to revert the economic crisis and make it a military endeavor? They may. So, meaning our American government is not going to let our economy go broke and then say, well, I guess we're out of a job. They're not going to do that.
No.
If this economy starts going down, 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 they will martial law, or they'll start a war, or they'll try to mobilize some type of military.
Yeah, I think that's what they've already done, because we're trillions in debt. And I believe that they engaged in promotion of not just Ukraine, the war that's happening there, but around the world.
Yeah,
they're lighting fires.
It's a little bit like the Roman Empire, where it got stretched thin and they couldn't afford themselves. But We are an absolute war machine. And that's why I really, because most people don't know, but the revolution, our people, it was only about 3%. So a lot of times a message goes out to the military veterans, but it is time for the military veterans to wake up and realize we didn't serve the American people. And anyone knows me, I'm pro law enforcement and I'm pro military. Today's law enforcement, they lost that. They are the bullies of the government, and our military, they are mercenaries of the government, mercenaries for the military industrial complex. So what I would say to the American people is, before you support law enforcement and support a big military, especially foreigners coming, you better be careful. One day this military, they might turn their guns on you. And I'd just be very cautious. It's just like the FBI. They're building a brand new headquarters, bigger than the Pentagon.
That's scary.
If I was worried, like some people are thinking these Chinese coming in there, spies and terrorists working for the Chinese government, not going to argue with that. But if you are really worried about an armed force that's going to knock down your door, take away your freedom and drag you to prison, the FBI comes to my mind, number one.
Yes.
I'd be more worried about the FBI, our law enforcement, even our own military taking away our freedoms. So we've got to start, you could support the military and support law enforcement, but they've gone way out of board, both in our tax money, and I question their loyalty to the American people now. I really do. I think we should look back on Afghanistan, Iraq, all these wars and ask ourselves, what exactly is this in the best interest of the American people? And if we don't have any more targets of opportunity for the military, perhaps the next target is going to be domestic, and they're going to come after you.
Yes, I absolutely concur. When people come to me and ask me if they should call the FBI, I can't unconsciously, in all good conscience, say, yes, that's a good move. Whereas years ago, I would have said, oh, yeah. Now I don't have an answer for them.
Yeah, and I don't want to lump the Trumpsters together, but there's a lot of Trump, which was me growing up too. You respect law enforcement, you're pro law enforcement, you're pro military, you respect them, but we got to go easy now, because I'll tell you, law enforcement, intelligence, military has gone overboard with our tax money. I mean, let's face it, a lot of citizens are having problems putting food on the table. More tax money to feed this beast. And number two, what exactly? Remember, Saddam Hussein, the Taliban. Oh, now we're worried about Hamas. Let Israel, okay? Stop giving money to Israel. Let Israel worry about Hamas. I'm not afraid of Hamas, okay? Maybe Israel. I'm not afraid of Hamas. I'm not afraid of Russia. I mean, to the American citizen, you have so many more threats domestically that you should be worrying about, that you keep giving your money to intelligence, military, law enforcement. And I don't trust these people anymore. I don't think their loyalty are to the American people. Their loyalty are to the corporations.
This country was founded on and thrives on war.
Yes.
That is the big business of government.
The CIA installs governments and then starts the wars. And then if that governmental entity that they put into place is not compliant, then they take them out. And they have some orchestrated story as to why they were against the United States of America, when in fact they just became non-compliant to a warring agenda.
Yeah, and it's weird. Right before I got kicked off Twitter, I was arguing with this person about why the FBI is in collusion with the social media companies. What the CIA does,
the FBI was working for Twitter before it became X.
Yeah, it's so common. People don't realize it. But what we do overseas, military, intelligence, and State Department with overseas social media, we are now doing domestically, because we're realizing we're losing the country. And our FBI, what our FBI is working in collusion with social media companies, is the same game plan that we use overseas to manipulate. So I find it odd now when people sort of, especially after the COVID, I mean, how long? I work for the government, and I find people who've never worked for the government have more trust in the government than people like me who've worked for the government. But I'm still amazed that how much trust they still have in these people. But I'm like, no, I don't have any trust. Because like I said, if the FBI was an honorable agency, they would be reaching out to me immediately. You say, all right, David, we got to talk. We don't like you, saying this stuff. Well, let's talk. It just doesn't, they don't care anymore. They just don't care. Just like our politicians don't really care about us. Just like our politicians are like, we have to protect the borders of Ukraine, but America, we'll get to it. Like it's so obvious now our country's corrupt.
And the corruption will probably never stop unless we can control it, as you have pointed out, at the local and state level. That's where you can make a difference. You can crawl on your knees to Washington, D.C., and all you're going to end up is in a gulag. But perhaps somewhere here on the local level, things can get accomplished. All right, how do people get in touch with you, or where do they follow you, David?
I think the best is Rumble. Just put David Baumblatt on Rumble. And then on there, you've also got my internet site if you want to buy my book and see internet. But Rumble's probably, I don't think I'm going to get kicked off Rumble. I hope I don't, but Rumble's the best place to go.
Well, I'm counting on the fact that you will not get kicked off of Rumble.
And it's amazing. Thank God for Rumble. Jeez. I mean, it's amazing.
They love you there, and we love you, and we're glad that you're a contributor to the show, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Yes.
Very, very, very soon. David Baumblatt, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye. David Baumblatt here on the Awake Nation. I do have a little bit of breaking news, and I want to toss that out there. So let's do this right now. Here we go. Tuesday's much anticipated London High Court ruling has gone mostly in Julian Assange's favor. He has been granted permission to continue to appeal his extradition to the United States, where he would face espionage and related charges for the publishing of state secrets. However, this is not yet a win for Assange and his team, but more of another delay. The court ruled that the WikiLeaks founder will not be extradited immediately and said the U.S. still has an opportunity to provide satisfactory assurances related to his grounds of appeal. What has happened Tuesday is tantamount to Assange's ability to challenge the extradition request being slightly extended and is a temporary reprieve, extending the whole process even further. So we will continue to follow this story about Julian Assange, but now he has received another temporary reprieve. All right, so we'll continue to follow that as well. All right, and I want to remind you, too, if you are looking for health insurance and you've been priced out of the health insurance market, fear not. We have something called health sharing that I think you're going to be health sharing, which I think is something you're going to be interested in. Check this out.
What is healthcare sharing? I'll tell you what it is and what it is not. Healthcare sharing is a concept that has been around since the early 80s, but has grown significantly in recent years. Reason is that for many families, individuals, and small businesses, healthcare sharing has become an alternative to the high cost of health insurance. As a result, hundreds of thousands of families across the country come together through the magic of technology to share the burden and pay each other's medical bills. Now, to what it's not, it is not insurance. In fact, as opposed to insurance, healthcare sharing is a nonprofit approach that enables families to access affordable healthcare. And for most families, healthcare sharing can save them over $9,000 a year compared to average insurance plans.
All right, just go to our website, theawakenation.com, go to Sponsors Row on the right side of the page and click the link to take you to Impact Health Sharing. Learn about this excellent program for people that have been priced out of the health insurance market. This is going to save you a ton of money, and the coverage is excellent. All right, very good. Finally today, this is interesting. Have you heard that Donald Trump had a victory the other day when his bond amount in the fraud case was lowered from $454 million to just $175 million. And of course, now we know that he has $6 billion to work with, as he just took Truth Social and made it a public company. But after news broke that this bond amount in his fraud case had been lowered from $454 million to $175 million, former President Donald Trump announced just today that he's going to pay the bond in its entirety with bags of nickels. Trump notified the court that preparations have already been made for a fleet of armored trucks to arrive at the courthouse and begin unloading cases and cases of freshly minted and rolled nickels totaling $175 million. Beautiful, shiny nickels. So many nickels, Trump said in his announcement. It's a total sham that I have to pay anything. But now that the bond has been significantly reduced, I will now pay it in full with 5-cent pieces. Our wonderful U.S. nickel. Thomas Jefferson on one side. We love Thomas Jefferson. Don't we, folks? I hope Letitia James loves him too, because she's going to be seeing $175 million worth of him. I win once again, just like I will in November. Believe me, bigly. New York Attorney General Letitia James had her staff searching through state laws in an effort to find a way to prevent Trump from paying his bond in change, but to no avail. He won't get away with this, James was heard saying. He thinks he can dump $175 million in nickels in my office. Time to cook up another baseless lawsuit. Trump has reportedly faced new indictment charges for failing to fall into financial ruin by previous sets of indictment charges. So that's, of course, once again from our good folks over at the Babylon Bee, who we rely on for a lot of our humor. That is going to do it for this edition of the Awake Nation. We do it Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific time. So start your day with a shot of espresso and the truth. The Awake Nation. That's going to do it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. In the meantime, we're out of time, so we are out of here. Zublick out.
Shepard out.
Goodbye for now from David Zublick's Awake Nation and from your co-hosts David Zublick and Penny L.A. Shepard. We invite you to watch us live on Rumble at the David Zublick channel and at theawakenation.com. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. Join us for the Awake Nation News, a 30-minute quick shot of truth with a shot of espresso, 8 a.m. to 8:30 Central, 9 a.m. to 9:30 Eastern, followed by 5 sets of 30-minute interviews with influencers who defy the mainstream narrative. David Zublick's Awake Nation, the truth with a shot of espresso. Please join us on YouTube at The Awake Nation News for an additional 30 minutes of breaking news, posting Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central and 6 p.m. Eastern. On behalf of David Zublick's Awake Nation and co-hosts David Zublick and Penny L.A. Shepard, we humbly thank our Dark Outpost and Awake Nation family. We thank you for watching David Zublick's Awake Nation and ask you to join us again each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. Ship doo 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 doo, yeah. Ship doo 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 doo. Ship doo 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 doo, yeah.